jumping from crow to chaturanga and from downward dog to crow. The first one a lot easier than the second one, but obviously they are both in the same spectrum of transitions. Let's start from crow into chaturanga. First of all, I suggest you practice the version of crow that comes more easy to you. If you are familiar with my way of describing crow, this will be an easier version, and then it will be this as the next progression, and then you will be moving more to this one, and so on and so forth. So decide the one that is most easy for you, because from there it will be easier to jump back. The fear of jumping back comes primarily because we are afraid of hitting our head. I know it's straightforward, it's obvious, but it's worth remembering, which is why the first version of jumping back that I suggest would be to bring your head back and not worry so much about how gentle, elegant the jump is. So basically you lift your head a little bit more than the head is already in crow, and from there you throw your legs back. Just literally throw your legs back. If you throw them quickly, you'll probably go straight into chaturanga. I will demonstrate that version. So from here, whichever version of crow you want, let's say my head is here, I will go back, and as you see, I've jumped back. It does require a little bit more strength for the shoulders than the regular crow does, but of course the strength will also develop the more you practice this drill. Don't be afraid if in the beginning the jump back is small. So I will demonstrate a smaller jump. Let's say that I'm here and I jump back. And that's fine, maybe that's what you would do in the first couple of attempts. It goes without saying that you can have a bolster in front of you. Once this transition is easy for you, then you can think about leaning a little bit more forward with your head. If you have the shoulder strength to support this action, then you will be able to slow down the jump back. And as you know, the body will be you will be counterbalancing a little bit more the upper body with your legs. And this leaning forward will allow you to slow down the jump back. So I will demonstrate that now. So from here, as you saw, I moved a lot more forward, and as a result the jump back became significantly slower. Depending on how strong your core feels, you can take even your legs back, so you can make this transition slightly slower, and that will be something like that. It doesn't take a stretch of imagination to think that the next step would be to go up into a handstand. Moving on to the jumping forward, which in my opinion it is a lot more scary than the jumping back. So make sure you start working on the jumping forward only when you can jump back without any fear, and you're quite comfortable with it. The jumping forward, let's say from a downward dog, it doesn't need to be straight from your regular downward dog. It can be initiated from a narrow downward dog. And in that case, the jump will be not as scary because it will not be much of a jump really. Also remember that the landing position again should ideally be in the version of crow that comes most comfortable to you. So if you can do a crow where your knees are coming to the armpits, but at the same time you're much more comfortable, like I would expect, having your knees resting on the outside of the elbows, jump forward to the easy version of crow, and with time, when you are comfortable with the jump, then you will be jumping with the knees behind the armpits. I will demonstrate from a narrow downward dog the jump forward into crow, first with the knees on the outside of my elbows and then in my armpits. So if that would be my regular downward dog, I'm gonna walk my feet forward, and as I want my elbows to go out, I will be doing something like that. If that feels easy, maybe at some point I want to, from a narrow downward dog, bring my knees behind my elbows. If that feels comfortable, then the next thing to think is to take the legs further back, and the jump of course will be bigger and as a result a little bit more scary. From a downward dog, I have found that there are two ways of jumping forward, jumping into crow, sorry. The first one is jumping forward, the other one is jumping up and down. The up and down gives you a lot more control, but of course it requires that someone is comfortable with going through a handstand. So depends on where you are. The first one will be more, the forward one will be more heavy on the shoulders. The second one will be having to deal with all the logistics that a handstand involves. So, that's it. Of course, I don't need to go from a very narrow downward dog straight into my regular. I can gradually build that up. I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments.